Sometimes OEMs say silly things like Xpeng, who say that this is not an MPV, even though it looks like an MPV, seats 7 people like an MPV, has sliding doors like an MPV. They say it's a Starship, and I don't really know what to do with that information. If you agree that this is a Starship, then it's the best looking, best driving, best everything Starship in human history, except for the fact that it can't fly or reach low Earth orbit, so it has some fundamental drawbacks as a Starship. However, on closer inspection, this is the Xpeng X9, and it's an all-electric bloody MPV. You can't fool me. I'm Will, and this is China Driven. First, let's get pricing out of the way. Here in China, the Xpeng X9 starts at just under $50,000 for the base front-wheel drive version and up to $58,000 for the top spec dual motor version. However, there are some optional extras you can add to take that price closer to $62,000. The Xpeng X9 represents the tippy top of the Xpeng model lineup, and even though it is quite costly, compared to competitors in the market, it's actually quite good value for money. Pretty good bang for your buck. A dramatic departure from Xpeng Styling here. The angularity harks back more to the P5, the red-headed stepchild of the model lineup, and juxtaposed to the G6, G9 and P7. There's no smooth pebble-like styling here. It's deep slashes and sharp lines, and dare I say it, quite sporty looking in the world of MPVs. Up front, it has the classic Xpeng lightsaber, 2 LiDAR down in the fascia, and an interesting pattern down in the middle. But front on, this is a bit of a square boy. Remember I said sporty? Well, nothing screams sporty like a super raked windscreen. Now, it is a bit odd of a choice for an MPV, but boy does it give it an interesting silhouette. You do lose some of the design features with this all-black model, but on lighter models you'll see a floating roof design with these flush, darkened pillars. And just for fun, there's a kink in the rear beltline as it joins that rakish drop at the back. Coutastic MPV. A little extra here for you that you might not know. Inside the door here, there is actually a place for an umbrella. However, it's a bit of a faff because you need to use the key in order to pop the cap off. But at least there's somewhere to store an umbrella. But if it's pissing down with rain, this is going to cause rage. At the rear here, you have these smoked LED taillights that run into this bar. And you even have the Xpeng name embossed and illuminated. And the rear is cleaved in half by this kind of integrated lower spoiler, with the top portion being dominated by glass. However, with 5 people in the back, you still may not be able to see easily rearwards. But don't worry, because the Xpeng X9 has a digital rear view mirror. On top of that digital rear view mirror, you also get a 10.25-inch instrument panel, a 17.3-inch 2K touchscreen, and it's all running the newer Snapdragon 8295. It's fast becoming the standard in smart EVs nowadays, replacing the older Snapdragon 8155 CPU. I think it's a really clean design in here. It's reminiscent of the G6 and G9 interiors with this central console. You get dual 50-watt wireless chargers up front with some storage space underneath and a couple more USBs. But I really like how thin this central console part is here in the X9. The cabin has leather, metal accenting, as well as real wood. It also has this acoustic material we first saw in the G6, and it covers the speakers, but also wraps around the bottom of the windscreen. It's a very multi-layered design in here, but I think it looks fire. We've got the Xpeng main staples in here, things like its frankly fantastic voice assistant in each 3 rows, and its X Opera 23 speaker, 2160 watt surround sound system with Dolby Atmos 7.1.6. It also includes speakers in the driver's headrest for things like GPS, alerts and phone calls. Talking about seats, this first row has heat, ventilation and spa massage function, and it's really quite strong. It gives a properly deep massage. But obviously, this is an MPV, so the main focus is in the rear seating experience. Believe it or not, these are the standard leather seats in the Xpeng X9. If you want, you can upgrade them to one of the stars of the interior that's available on the X9, and that is what Xpeng calls the zero gravity seats. And they don't just recline back with a leg rest like these seats, they fully tip up, so you feel kind of cradled like a baby. Definite big thumbs up. But these seats are nothing to be sniffed at. In fact, because they're a little bit narrower than the optional gravity sofas, you get this kind of passageway to enter the third row. New for the Xpeng X9 is what Xpeng calls the X3 microclimate intelligent AC system. And basically what it is, in the roof there are all these tiny holes, 6,000 of them. And what it allows the AC system to do is to control cabin temperature without directly blowing hot or cold air on you, so you can feel comfortable. But if you're still too hot or too cold, you can always heat and cool drinks and food in the refrigerator back here. In terms of rear entertainment, we are spoiled with a 21.4-inch LCD display back here, and accompanied with the X Opera Dolby Atmos spatial audio. It's a pretty good viewing experience. That screen can actually tilt up to 72 degrees to improve your viewing angle, which is useful because you can go quite a way back with these seats and even lay them down a little bit. The only problem is, once you're back here, reaching that screen is not exactly very convenient. However, do you remember those aftermarket head units with the flip out screens in the mid 2000s? They all came remote controls. So does the Xpeng X9. Not only that, Xpeng actually gave you a little place to put this so you don't lose it, right here in the back of the seats in front. Things back here really aren't bad at all. I got plenty of leg room and loads of foot room thanks to a cutout in the seat in front of me. And headroom isn't bad either. Now, I'm only 170 centimeters, but somebody a fair bit taller than me would be all right back here. You got a cup holder, USB-C socket, as well as a reading light. And these seats will also recline. And to be honest with you, they recline a long way. They'll actually go completely flat, although it's not the most comfortable thing to do so. But let me tell you, that's not even the real party stopper of this third row. Back here, to try and get a more than reasonable 755 litres of space, namely because of this quite deep recess in the trunk. And Xpeng say that it can fit 8 24-inch carry-on size suitcases. But the real showstopper here is when you do this. Now you have a frankly ridiculous 2,554 litres of space. That's a lot of suitcases for 4 people. Even my wife, who's a notorious overpacker when we travel, wouldn't even touch the size of this cavernous rear. But the real problem I see is if I were to buy one of these, I'd be afraid that my friends would ask me that one thing that we can never deny, but absolutely hate doing. They'd all ask me to help them bloody move house. The Xpeng X9 has 2 battery options. The base front-wheel drive has an 84.5 kilowatt-hour LFP pack with a claimed 610 kilometers of range, or you can choose the super long range version with a 101.5 kilowatt-hour NCM pack with a longer 702 kilometers of range. You can keep that same 101.5 kilowatt-hour pack for the dual motor, and the range will fall to 640 kilometers. Let me start by saying something that might sound a bit weird considering this is an MPV, but I've enjoyed driving this far more than I thought I would do. And most of that is due to the rear wheel steering. It makes this car so darty on the road, and it drives like a much smaller car. Couple that with the direct steering input and plenty of power in this all-wheel drive version, and dare I say it, this might be the driver's MPV. Obviously this isn't carving up any apexes or anything like that, but it will put a smile on your face. And if this is your family vehicle and you've got to drive it around, that might count for something. This all-wheel drive version's dual motor setup puts down 370 kilowatts and 640 Newton meters, sprinting to 100 kilometers an hour from a standstill in 5.7 seconds. Not the fastest EV MPV, but still an unholy acceleration for a people carrier. The all-wheel drive is front-wheel biased, and the base version's super long-range version used the same front motor with 235 kilowatts and 450 Newton meters, but they have a more reasonable 7.7 seconds acceleration. Going back to the rear-wheel steering, it makes this 5.3 meter long lump have an incredible tight turning circle. It's laughable. I've just been chuckling to myself at some of the tight spaces that I've been able to weave and navigate this through. It's unbelievable. In addition to the standard rear wheel steer, you also get CDC and double chamber air suspension as standard. And having driven my family around in this for about a week now, the feedback has been that the levels of comfort are really good. One note is that the cabin is susceptible to exterior noise, more so than I would have thought. It's not horribly loud in here or anything, but there are a couple of competitors who definitely are quieter on the interior. So we've driven Xpeng's XNGP City and Highway on the Xpeng G6 launch and also in the G9, and both times were in Guangzhou. So this time was the first time I was able to use XNGP City here in Changsha. It's a small city you've never heard of. It's only like 8+ million people. At the end of last year, Xpeng pushed XNGP City to many cities in China. However, I'm brutally honest, the available roads in Changsha is not that extensive. However, the other day, I did take my family to a nearby city about 2 hours away, and that whole journey was completed, 80% of it, by XNGP City and Highway. The only time I didn't use XNGP on that trip was when it wasn't available. Other than that, it drove nearly flawlessly. I was very, very impressed. And when I got to the other end, I informed my passengers that I hadn't really been actively driving for most of the journey. There were no whoops or cheers because my wife doesn't really care about cars. But I guess the best praise is that they didn't really notice. I don't know if that's praise for the XNGP system or a kind of dig at my driving style. Honest opinion, I think the Xpeng X9 is absolutely rubbish for intergalactic travel, and I advise absolutely no one to buy this as a Starship. However, as a premium EV MPV, this ticks all the right boxes, and versus the competition, it's actually pretty good value for money. So are you a family man who likes to moonlight as a removal truck driver? Are you looking for a new car that can fit the whole family in style and comfort, but also double as a U-Haul? Then the Xpeng X9 may just be the best vehicle on the market.